Welcome back to Houston Newsmakers as we continue our conversation with Dr. Rick Rigsby, one of the guest authors at this year's Barbara Bush Houston Literacy Foundation Celebration of Reading. It's coming up on Thursday. Dr. Rigsby, your book, your Lessons from a Third Grade Dropout. What do you think it was about the tone, the value, your father who spent 30 years as a cook, but yet he had a different set of values, a different kind of education? What was it about him that set the tone for you and made the foundation for his character, you think?
That's a great question, Kimbrell. I think that the values are universal. They transcend time. They transcend geographic location. I mean, think about this. Be a servant. Go beyond yourself. Make sure your servant's towel is bigger than your ego. Make sure that you are inconveniencing yourself every single day so that you can honor and uplift and bless other people. Make sure that above all, you're kind. You know, when I was growing up, kindness was a value. Today, kindness is a commodity that we barter to get what we think we might need to appease the sensibilities of folks we don't even know. Those values don't just stay in one particular generation. They transcend, and I think that universality is why it resonated with so many people and continues to do so.
So one of the things you talk about in your book is about one of the problems in society is that because people are working hard to make an impression and not an impact. What do you mean by that?
Well, that was me. I started in television in the 70s and 80s, had great foundation, but it was all about me. It was all about how I could impress people. And then I began to really dive deeply into what my mother and father were trying to talk about. There's a big difference between impressionistic living and impactful living. Impressionistic living means they'll invite you to the birthday party. Impactful living means you will never be forgotten because you develop this insatiable appetite to move beyond yourself and your appearance and help other people. You know, I often say that legacy is how we want to be remembered, but impact is why people won't forget us.
You know, and people try to make impact all the time in many different ways, but sometimes it's rather superficial. You say in your book that just offering an image of knowledge has replaced building a knowledge base. I remember that's one of the things you wrote, and that seems to be one of the times that people always try to have these conversations, but they're having it based upon not necessarily a base of knowledge, but just trying to show that they have knowledge.
Right. You know, I was so privileged for so many years to be a faculty member at the university level, several at Texas A&M University. And I would remind my college students that knowledge, breadth and depth is not acquired by pressing a button on a computer. And it seems to pass muster in this day and age, how we appear, our ability to talk. If we can pontificate with an ecclesiastical excellence, we'll pass muster. If we can just appear as though we know something, we don't have to pay the price to really know it. Well, guess what? That's catching up to a society that is very shallow and very superficial. One
of the other comments in your book was about discipline. And I was amazed when you stretched it out, how much discipline. You said discipline influences endurance. And yes. I love that. And once I started reading about that, how much discipline was the undergirding for almost everything that's positive in our society.
Isn't that the truth? And just look no further than our parents. Your father born in 1919, my father born in 1920. Nothing was accomplished without discipline, without focusing on a target and hitting that target. Why is that important? Look at all the distractions that compete for our hearts and minds. If you're not disciplined, if you're not focused, you're going to go aimlessly through life, probably focusing on things that don't amount to a hill of beans.
You are a pastor. I'm delighted to have you here on this Easter Resurrection Sunday because of that role. And I'd be remiss if I didn't take this opportunity on this Resurrection Sunday to ask you about the special message that you are going to be presenting on this special day to the people who are in your congregation, which is a worldwide congregation now.
You know, Cambrell, thank you for the opportunity. First of all, we celebrate the resurrection of Jesus Christ, which is the greatest of all events in history. There are a couple of challenges that are facing our churches today. I think if we're going to call ourselves Christians, we need to act like Christians. And this is what I mean. When I read the Jesus of the New Testament, It's love, right? Jesus said, come to me, all ye who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. He didn't say some of you come to me. He didn't say Republicans come to me. Come on. He didn't say Democrats come to me. He didn't say rich come to me. He didn't say poor come to me. He said all. And so as a result of the culture we live in, we see great division. Martin Luther King said over 60 years ago, either we're going to learn to live together in unity or we're going to perish together as fools. It is incumbent upon Christians to promote unity, regardless of how a different person may think or regardless of the persuasion. We don't have to think alike, but we ought to think together. I think a lack of unity, division is the first challenge. I think the second challenge facing the church is hopelessness. But I want to remind you of something. As long as your heart is beating, there is still hope. I learned that from a third grade dropout as I stood at the casket of my first wife, holding the hands of two little boys 26 years ago. I said, Dad, I've lost hope. He said, son, you can't lose something God gave you. You haven't lost hope. You've lost perspective. Now, son, just stand. For those that are listening this Easter Sunday and you have no hope, you have no reason for which to hope. Just know this. If you're still breathing, there's still hope found in Christ.
Dr. Rick Rigsby, thank you. Best wishes for you during this celebration of reading next week and also for your comforting words on this Resurrection Sunday. Thank you, sir.
I can't tell you what an honor it's been to be with you, Kimbrell. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.